Have you ever walked out of a fortune teller's room feeling both scared and strangely convinced that your life is now fixed by a few lines and numbers on a piece of paper? Have you ever heard someone say your fate is already written? Your chart shows lifelong hardship. Nothing can change it, and felt a mix of anger, helplessness, and a desperate wish to prove them wrong? Welcome back to the channel, my friend. I am really glad you are here, because today we are going to talk about a question that many people carry quietly in their hearts. Is my destiny already decided by the moment I was born? Or can my choices, my kindness, and my inner practice actually change the ending of my story? We are going to use the example of the birth chart, often called Bazi or Four Pillars, as a doorway to a much deeper topic: the law of cause and effect, the power of virtue and inner transformation, and how you can participate in rewriting your own life script. The original article that inspires this video describes that familiar experience. You go for a reading. You hear about misfortune, illness, emotional struggles, or financial blocks, and suddenly your future feels like a fixed prison. It also raises a different view. What if the chart is not a death sentence, but just the opening cards you are dealt at the beginning of the game? What if what really matters is not only what you were given, but how you play your hand, how you respond, how you cultivate goodness and wisdom over time? In this long conversation, we are going to walk step by step through a few core ideas. First, we will look at what a birth chart can and cannot tell you, and why many people secretly hand over their power to it. Then we will explore the law of cause and effect, how your choices and attitudes generate new conditions that can soften, redirect, or even transform the tendencies shown in your chart. We will tell stories of people whose fate seemed fixed on paper, but slowly changed through unseen good deeds, inner awakening, compassion, and practice. And finally, we will turn the mirror back to you and ask if your life is a script in progress. What kind of writer do you want to be from this moment onward? So, if you have ever been told this is just your fate, accept it. I invite you to stay with me, not for a quick superstition, but for a deep look at how destiny, karma, virtue, and awakening really dance together in a human life. Imagine a young woman we will call Lily. She is in her late 20s, smart, sensitive, and quietly anxious about her future. A friend tells her about a famous master who reads birth charts. She hesitates, but curiosity wins. One rainy afternoon, she finds herself sitting across from an older man at a small wooden table. He asks for her birth date and time, does some calculations, and then begins to speak. At first, his words seem strangely accurate. He mentions a difficult relationship with her father, a breakup in her early 20s, a tendency to overthink at night. Lily is impressed. Her heart opens. She feels that he sees her. Then he says calmly, "Your chart shows heavy emotional karma. It will be hard for you to have a stable marriage. Even if you marry, there will be many tears. You are also weak in money luck. No matter how hard you work, it will be difficult to accumulate wealth. Around middle age, you must be careful of health problems affecting the heart and lungs." The room suddenly feels colder. Lily's mind freezes on the words, "no matter how hard you work," and many tears. She forces a smile, pays, and walks out. The sky is still gray, but now her whole life feels gray too. That night she lies in bed, staring at the ceiling. Every hope she used to have for love and stability now feels like a cruel joke. Part of her is angry. How can he say that so casually? Another part is terrified. What if he is right? What if it is all already written? From that day, something subtle but powerful begins to happen. She still goes to work. She still meets friends. But her choices are now colored by the belief that her fate is unlucky and fixed. When she meets a kind man who likes her, a whisper in her mind says, "It will end in tears anyway. Why bother?" When she thinks about changing jobs, another whisper says, "Money luck is bad no matter what. White ride hard." In other words, the reading has given her not just information, but a lens. Through that lens, she now interprets everything. The lens itself becomes a new cause, shaping her future more strongly than the original chart ever could. Let us pause here and look carefully. A birth chart, in the traditional view, describes tendencies, patterns of energy, potential strengths and weaknesses, and the rhythm of certain life stages. It is like a weather map for your life. It can tell you that your path may include more storms in certain areas and more sunshine in others. It can point to areas where you need extra awareness and areas where you naturally flourish. But no weather map can decide what kind of driver you are on that road. No weather forecast can force you to crash your car. It can tell you that the road ahead is slippery, visibility is low, the wind is strong. You still have choices. Slow down, use better tires, ask for help, wait until the storm passes, or recklessly speed ahead with your eyes closed. The problem arises when we confuse tendencies with absolute fate. When we hear this area may be challenging and translate it in our mind as you are doomed no matter what you do. We turn a picture of potential weather into a fixed prison. And then, ironically, we act from that prison, which creates new negative causes that actually make things worse. Spiritual wisdom suggests a different attitude. It says, yes, there are patterns. Yes, you arrive in this life with certain built-in tendencies, shaped by previous causes, by family karma, by your soul's unfinished lessons. But you are not a stone rolling down a hill. You are a conscious being capable of reflection, choice, and transformation. Your birth chart is like the opening chapter of a book, not the final ending. Imagine two twins born at the same time, with nearly identical charts. One grows up in a violent environment, surrounded by fear, without guidance, drowning in resentment. The other grows up in a household where, although there are also problems, at least one adult consistently teaches kindness, responsibility, and reflection. Same chart, very different outcomes. Why? Because the living causes and conditions around them are different. The law of cause and effect is always at work, not only at birth, but every single day. Now, let us introduce another layer: virtue, or good deeds, and inner cultivation. The original article that we are expanding here offers a powerful image. Destiny is like a script, but you are both the actor and, gradually, the co-writer. Your previous actions, in this life and others, have given you a certain starting script: family, body, basic temperament, early experiences. That is your opening scene. But from there, every choice you make either reinforces the old script or begins to rewrite it. If your chart suggests that you have a tendency toward accidents or health issues, and you live recklessly, harming your body, taking unnecessary risks, ignoring warnings, you are adding fuel to that tendency. You are giving the old script more and more power. If your chart suggests relational challenges, and you respond by closing your heart, blaming everyone, repeating the same immature behaviors, refusing to learn communication and empathy, again, you feed the old pattern. But if you take the chart as a warning bell, as a reminder to cultivate special care in those areas. Everything changes. A person whose chart suggests health challenges might take extra steps to live mindfully, eat well, rest adequately, manage stress, and help others who are sick, generating compassion and merit. A person whose chart points to emotional instability might commit deeply to inner work, therapy, communication skills, and acts of kindness in relationships. Over time, these choices create new causes. New causes bring new conditions. New conditions soften and reshape how the original tendencies manifest. This is how someone whose birth chart looked heavy can gradually live a life that feels much lighter than expected. The storms do not disappear completely, but their damage is reduced. The person learns to doctor wisely, to seek shelter when needed, to repair quickly when something breaks. The script still contains drama, but it is no longer a tragedy that crushes their soul. Let me tell you a story that brings this to life. There was a man we will call Chen. As a teenager, he went with his parents to consult a respected astrologer. The astrologer studied his chart and said bluntly, "This child has a heavy fate. His chart shows danger in early adulthood, possibility of a serious accident or even life-threatening illness. His financial path is also not smooth. He must be very careful." His mother's face turned pale. His father frowned in silence. Young Chen himself laughed it off at the time, not fully understanding, but the words stayed in his memory. In his early 20s, feeling invincible, he lived recklessly. He drove fast, stayed up all night, drank heavily, got into fights. When his parents worried, he would joke, "Relax. If I am meant to die, it is fate. If not, I will be fine no matter what I do." This attitude is actually a misunderstanding of destiny. He used fate as an excuse to ignore cause and effect. One night, after drinking and arguing with friends, he got on his motorcycle and sped off. On a sharp turn, his wheels slipped on gravel. The world spun. Metal screamed, and then everything went black. He woke up in a hospital bed, body broken, months of recovery ahead. Doctors told him he was lucky to be alive. Some people in similar accidents had not survived. As he lay there, helpless, he remembered the astrologer's words about danger in early adulthood. For the first time, the idea of fate hit him like a physical weight. He could have concluded, "See, it was all written. Nothing I can do." He could have sunk into bitterness, blaming the world, blaming the astrologer for scaring him, blaming his parents, blaming anyone. Instead, something different happened. In the long, silent hours of recovery, he began to think about the chain of causes that lead to that moment: his pride, his recklessness, his anger, his refusal to listen, his use of fate as a shield against responsibility. He saw that the chart might have pointed to a risk, but his own choices had lit the fuse. During rehabilitation, a volunteer group visited the hospital regularly, offering comfort to patients, listening to their stories. One older volunteer, with gentle eyes, spent time at his bedside. She did not lecture him. She simply listened and sometimes shared short reflections about how she had wasted her own younger years and later found meaning by helping others. Her presence slowly touched something in him. After he was discharged, he surprised himself by joining that volunteer group. At first, it was just a way to pass time. But as he visited patients, especially young accident victims like himself, a new kind of feeling arose, a mixture of sorrow, empathy, and a quiet wish to ease others' suffering. Even just a little, he started to live differently. He quit drinking, learned to doctor carefully, looked for steady work instead of chasing quick money. He also began small daily practices, a moment of gratitude in the morning, a silent wish for others' well-being before sleep, a habit of restraining his temper and speaking more thoughtfully. Years passed. When he was in his 30s, he met another astrologer by chance at a community event. Out of curiosity, he asked the astrologer to take a look at his chart and his current situation. After some calculations, the astrologer looked up and said, "Your original chart shows a heavy danger period in your 20s, but it seems you have passed the worst. The energy has softened. There is still some karmic residue, but your later years can be much smoother if you continue to cultivate virtue and clarity." Chen smiled, not with arrogance, but with a deep sense of humility and gratitude. He understood that what had changed was not the numbers on his chart, but his relationship with life. His accident had been a turning point, a wake-up call, the volunteer work, the inner reflection, the change in habits, the constant small acts of kindness. All of that had gradually rewritten how the original tendencies played out. The death line had become a rebirth line. This is the subtle but powerful way that accumulated goodness and awakening can reshape destiny. The chart may show a pattern, but how sharply or softly it manifests depends greatly on the causes you continue to create. Another important aspect is the intention behind your good deeds. Some people, after hearing about karma and destiny, start doing charity, giving donations, or performing rituals purely to buy good luck. Their inner voice says, "If I give this amount, life must reward me with a promotion, a good marriage, good health." Their kindness is transactional. From the angle of cause and effect, even this kind of giving can have some positive effect, but its power is limited. Why? Because the inner motive is still self-centered, based on fear and bargaining. It is like planting seeds in soil that is mixed with chemicals. Something may grow, but it will not be very strong or sweet. In contrast, when you help others because your heart genuinely feels their pain, when you give because you understand that we are all interconnected, when you restrain your harmful impulses because you do not want to spread suffering, your good deeds carry a completely different vibration. They are aligned with the deep fabric of life, which is built on interdependence and compassion. That kind of virtue has a strong, stable effect on destiny. It does not always show up as material rewards. Often it shows up as protection in moments of danger, as opportunities at just the right time, as inner resilience when storms hit, as a calm wisdom that guides your choices. These are the quiet ways your life script is rewritten from the inside out. Think of a woman named Maria. Her birth chart, according to a reader, showed difficulties in childbearing and a tendency toward loneliness in old age. When she first heard this, fear gripped her. She had always imagined herself surrounded by family in her later years. Instead of sinking into despair, she decided to turn this prediction into fuel for goodness. She told herself, "If life plans for me to have fewer family members, then I will make the whole world my family." She became involved in supporting children in need, especially those without stable homes. She volunteered at youth centers, reading books to kids, helping with homework, listening to their stories. She did not do this to trade for children of her own. She did it because their loneliness touched her heart. At the same time, she cultivated deep friendships, investing time and care into building community. She visited sick neighbors, cooked for older people, offered rides to those who needed help getting to the clinic. For decades, she lived this way quietly, consistently, like a candle burning steadily in the corner of a room. In the end, she did have only one child, and that child moved abroad. If you looked only at that fact, you might say the chart was correct. But if you visited her in her 60s, in 70s, you would not see a lonely old woman. Her small house was full of people, coming and going, young adults she had helped years earlier, neighbors who treated her like a beloved aunt, community members who saw her as a source of calm wisdom. On holidays, there were more guests than chairs. Her destiny of loneliness had been transformed not by arguing with the chart, but by overflowing with love. She could have spent her life hiding, feeling cursed. Instead, she lived as if every person was a possible child or sibling or parent. Her script changed. This is one of the deepest teachings about fate and virtue. You do not contradict heavy karma with slogans or denial. You meet it with courage, with responsibility, with ongoing good deeds, with inner transformation. The more you understand that cause and effect is always operating, the less you are afraid of any single prediction, because you know you are never powerless. Now, let us bring this into your own life more directly. Maybe you have never had a birth chart reading, or maybe you have had many with conflicting messages. Maybe someone once told you, you will always struggle with money, or you will have a difficult marriage, or you are not meant for high achievement, and some part of you still carries those sentences like a quiet curse inside your chest. I invite you to consider something radical. The most important prediction about your life is not what someone else reads from your chart. It is what your soul is trying to learn and express through this lifetime. A chart can be a rough map. It can show mountains, rivers, potential storms. But your courage, your kindness, your willingness to learn, your ability to get up again after falling, your persistence in practicing compassion, all of these are forces that can bend the path. The law of cause and effect is not cruel. It is exact. It reflects you back to yourself. If you wish to know your future, look honestly at your present habits, your present way of talking, thinking, treating others, handling difficulties. Your future is a magnified echo of these. If you constantly complain, blame, and give up, you are writing one kind of script. If you face your weakness, apologize when you harm others, keep trying to do better, lend a hand when you can. Even if you are tired, you are writing a very different script. The universe may have given you a certain starting pattern, but it has also given you the power of awareness. Every time you wake up from autopilot, notice your reactive pattern and choose a wiser response. You are changing the ending of a scene in your life. Enough changed scenes, and the entire story arc begins to shift. Let us talk about escape, because that is another trap. Some people hear about fate and think, if it is written, why bother? Others hear about the power of virtue and think, if I do enough charity, everything will be magically perfect. Both attitudes miss the heart of the teaching. The first attitude uses fate as an excuse to avoid responsibility. The second uses morality as a bargain to avoid deeper inner work. True transformation of destiny includes both outer action and inner practice. It is not enough to donate money while still filled with hatred and jealousy. It is also not enough to meditate for hours while mistreating people around you. Cause and effect works through your whole being. How you think, how you speak, how you act, how you silently wish others well or harm, all of that matters. Your birth chart may show a seed of anger, but whether that seed grows into violence or is transformed into courage and protection for the weak depends on how you work with it. There are people with fiery charts who become great defenders of justice, using their strong energy to stand up for those who have no voice. There are people with the same fiery pattern who, lacking guidance and self-discipline, fall into destructive behavior. The pattern is the same. The cultivation is different. So when you hear about your chart, you might ask yourself questions like these: what tendencies does this point out? How have I already seen them in my life? In what direction do I want to steer them? What practices can help me transform their lower expression into a higher one? If your chart points to sensitivity, you can become a victim of every emotion, or you can become deeply empathetic and creative. If it points to ambition, you can become ruthless, or you can become a visionary leader who benefits many. If it points to hard lessons, you can become bitter, or you can become wise and compassionate. Behind all of this is one fundamental spiritual truth: you are not just your chart. You are also awareness itself, the space in which all patterns appear and change. The more you identify with the patterns, the more trapped you feel. The more you rest as awareness, gently observing, the more freedom you have to respond differently. Now, I want to share something like a quiet conversation between us. Beyond concepts, think back to a time when you felt that your life was sealed. Maybe a doctor gave a harsh diagnosis. Maybe a partner told you they would never come back. Maybe a boss said you would never advance. Maybe a reader told you that your chart was bad. In that moment, you probably felt small, like a character whose author has already closed the book. But you are here, listening now. That alone means the story did not end there. Somewhere inside you, there was a spark that refused to accept that one sentence as your whole reality. Perhaps you sought help. Perhaps you changed something in your daily life. Perhaps you simply survived, one breath at a time. That small spark is your true power, the willingness to keep moving, to keep learning, to keep opening, even when you feel scared. Destiny is not impressed by how many fortune tellers you visit. It responds to how you live when no one is watching. It responds to how you treat those who cannot repay you. It responds to how you behave when anger rises. It responds to how you act when you could get away with something selfish, but choose integrity instead. These are the moments when your life's script is really being edited. They are quiet, often unseen by the world, but seen clearly in the mirror of cause and effect. So the question is not, does my birth chart decide everything? The deeper question is, am I willing to live in such a way that, whatever my chart says, I become a kinder, wiser, more awake human being? A person who lives like that does not need perfect predictions. They are too busy practicing compassion, adjusting their actions, repairing harm, and building goodness. Their focus shifts from what will I get to what kind of person am I becoming. Fate itself responds. As we begin to close this long reflection, I want to offer you a gentle summary in human words. Your birth chart is a map of tendencies, not a prison of certainties. It shows the weather of your life, but not the skill of your driving. The law of cause and effect is always active. Every thought, word, and deed is a seed. Some seeds sprout quickly, some take years, some even take lifetimes, but none are lost. They shape the conditions in which your chart unfolds. Good deeds and virtue, especially when done from a sincere heart, can soften heavy karma, attract supportive conditions, and protect you in times of danger. This is not magic. It is the natural result of aligning yourself with the deep structure of reality, which is interconnected and responsive. Inner practice, such as mindfulness, reflection, honesty about your patterns, and a commitment to becoming more compassionate, slowly rewires how your tendencies express themselves. The same energy that once caused harm can be transformed into energy that heals. You are both actor and co-writer of your life script. You cannot change the opening scene, but you can absolutely change many of the later scenes, and even the tone of the whole story. Now, I want to invite you to join the conversation. Have you ever had an experience where someone told you something about your fate or your personality, and you later realized that your own choices had changed the outcome? Have you ever seen someone whose life looked doomed on paper, but through kindness, perseverance, and inner growth, they created a completely different reality? If you feel comfortable, share a part of your story in the comments. You do not need to reveal your real name or too many details. Just tell us about a moment when you refused to be defined by a prediction, or when you used hardship as a turning point to live with more awareness. Your story may be the light someone else needs when they are trapped in fear after a harsh reading. And if this long video resonated with you, if it helped you breathe a little easier, remembering that you are not a slave to any chart, please support this channel. You can subscribe, turn on notifications, so you will know when new deep dive videos are uploaded. Click like so the platform knows this content matters, and leave a comment with your reflections. If you feel drawn to support on a deeper level, you can also consider joining as a channel member. That helps us keep creating long, thoughtful content about awakening, wisdom, cause and effect, compassion, practice, and destiny, instead of just chasing quick views. Thank you for sharing this time with me, for letting these words enter your inner world. May you find the courage to look at your tendencies without fear, the strength to cultivate goodness even when no one is watching, and the faith to trust that every sincere step toward compassion and wisdom is silently rewriting your life script in ways more beautiful than you can currently imagine. At the end of the day, we all need something that brings us back to ourselves. Something that reminds us to slow down, breathe, and stay centered. Simple bracelet can do exactly that. Every bead you touch brings your mind back to calm, back to clarity, back to the present moment. If one of the bracelets you just saw resonates with you, you can find the purchase link in the video description and explore more beautiful styles in our channel store. Let the one meant for you find its way to your wrist.